Hello, class. This is Chef Ridsdale, and I will be kind of talking you through some different aspects of menus and catering to see how you just to give you guys some ideas on how you look at your menus and the differences that we can talk about as they relate to catering. And we're going to start out today with this particular one, which is from a restaurant. It's a chain restaurant located in a bunch of different locations. But this is kind of their, even though this is their takeout menu, that can, as you can see from this section right down in here, okay, what they're doing is this actually also doubles as their catering menu. For restaurants that have exactly, if you notice, they have a bulk to go, which is technically catering. Express meals, which again this is really their catering section. They've actually included this as part of their menu. A lot of barbecue places do that. So what you got is you've got some bulk items that they can buy. The difference between this menu between the bulk takeout and the express meal, so those are things that you're picking up, whereas the catering is going to be specified with things that they're actually going to drop off to you. And it's probably going to include something along the lines of delivery. Now, as well, you can see here that there's no prices. So the pricing for this will be actually on a separate sheet. This say a lot of caterers do this in general with all your menus. You're going to see this kind of as a common theme throughout as we look at these menus today, because you can see that you've got it's easier to reprint one page when you change prices as opposed to this whole entire menu, which is a lot more expensive. So the way to save costs is you print just the one sheet. Now, the second menu we're looking at here is from an organization called Biscotti's. They own actually two restaurants in town and actually run a full service catering operation out of the out of their restaurant as well. So what you've got here is this here is now into what we call the past hors d'oeuvres or the hors appetizer buffet options. This one here, there's three of them in here. You'll see they have a light cocktail party one. It's got a couple of past. It's also got some items that they're going to put out in a buffet type fashion. It also even specifies the plasticware they're going to use or the type of service it is. So, and again, here's your second one, a couple of different past hors d'oeuvres. And then again, a little heavier items here, a little bit more towards heavier type hors d'oeuvres as we get into the heavier hors d'oeuvre options. And we get down into here, and this one's pretty much the same, just a little bit different. But once you start seeing things like shrimp and carved items, then we're looking at going from what we call light hors d'oeuvres to heavy hors d'oeuvres. So, and again, if you notice, there's no pricing on this menu because it's going to appear on a pricing list. You can look up their other menus and things like that. They have several different menus right there at that at that Biscotti's information desk there. Now, the third one we're going to look at is also from Biscotti's. This one here is also, like I said before, is from Biscotti's, but this is where you're getting into heavy hors d'oeuvres, okay? Which is if you're looking at this, and what the break off point between light hors d'oeuvres and heavy hors d'oeuvres is kind of, it's not necessarily an exact point, but you can see here where you've got, you start getting into some heavier things. You've got some satays, you got some, some grilled brie, you're looking at shrimp. And when you get down into this one, you can definitely see you've got an antipasto, you've got again some seared tuna, where you're getting closer to what we would be looking at um, as with dinner items. The other thing is you're looking at any hors d'oeuvre function. The typical, if you notice, most caterers will establish minimums, which is a good thing for you to take a look at doing because if not, as a caterer, you're going to end up with menus that people want to do for 5 or 10. And unless you already have a restaurant, it does not make any sense for a freestanding caterer to do an order for 10. That's probably more, that's much more suited for a personal chef type of operation than it would be necessarily for you as a caterer. Because you're looking at your labor costs. Okay, the labor to do 20 or the labor to do 40 or the labor to do 60 is not that much different. So you really want to, though you want in catering, you want to do the money is to be made is to do large, uh, more guests, and if you do more guests, then you have gain what they call economies of scale with your production. Um, all of these items, what you would be looking at is you're really going to want to do an item for typically for buffets and those types of things. You're looking at hors d'oeuvres. We're figuring on 10 to 12 pieces per person. So that's not 10 grilled shrimp. It's not 10 marinated chicken kebabs. It's really somewhere in between where you've got, you might have chilled shrimp, egg rolls, spring rolls might be a popular item. You know that on your menu. So you might do 4 or 5 here. Maybe you only do a couple of chicken kebabs per person. Or the turkey breast sandwiches are going to be, are always a hot item, so you're going to go a little heavier there. But you really want to total in each of these menus roughly. I usually always went 10 to 12 in pricing will be 10 to 12 items per person, with the exception of things like this here, where you've got the right here, where you've got the Spanish, antipasto. I always consider that to be the extra item, figuring about 3 to 4 ounces per person. So that kind of gives you an idea of where to look for your pricing aspects of it, as if you were looking from a menu perspective. And again, look here, it's not a whole lot different. They do specify down here if you want if you want to add plastic, then they're going to add then you're going to add an additional 75 cents per person. And if they're going to deliver it, then they're going to actually add an additional price for that. So basically, this would be start out as a pickup, and then you can add in more on your plates, and then of course you can, if you want somebody to deliver it, they're going to add more pricing to it. Another way to approach your menus here is this is from a total off-premise caterer here in town, which is called the Perfect Pair. Okay, they don't do anything in-house. It's all out, basically, it's all outside the operation. So they're an off-premise caterer. And what you have here is they've taken this and kind of themed it for them for their guests. So what you have here is you've got 1 to 2 pieces per person again. You've got some appetizers, then you've got some entree items, and they've already spelled it out at how much you're getting. So you've got 1 to 1.5 pieces per person. Okay. Here you've got 2 per person roughly. So you've got beef skewers, satays, um, baby back ribs, and you've got a few little bit desserts here. So that's a different approach that you can take with your menu. You can go ahead and do themes. They have several other themes in their repertoire from the Perfect Pair that are there. The Perfect Pair also being a total outsourced catering operation, an off-premise caterer. Their specialty happens to be a lot of weddings. So this gives you an example of what a cake menu would look like if you were looking at it from a full-service caterer who has a baker in there and pastry chef in their operation to handle this. You'll find that when I was in catering, I chose not to do this. What we used to do is we would actually have them go to a pastry shop to get this done, and then the pastry shop's responsible for bringing it and getting it all set up and the rest of that. We would cut it at the end, but as far as setup and the rest of that, we were not going to take that responsibility. Not having a pastry chef anyway. Wedding cakes are always the beast of the bride. They want them to be absolutely perfect. There's usually lots of extra detail in there, and you really want somebody who specializes in that. So if you're actually looking at specializing in weddings from your concept from week one, then you would definitely want to look at hiring a caterer and developing a cake menu, giving them plenty of options, just as this was, for example. The last menu we're going to look at here is from our is as you can see here is from it's from a Jacksonville Golf and Country Club. which is an on-premise caterer for the most part. I do know they do a little bit of other types of items, but for the most part, they're an on-premise caterer. So what you have here is you've got all sorts of, this is their actual banquet brochure. Okay. So you've got here, and they actually act as the wedding planner themselves. So they kind of are becoming almost like a wedding specialist. So what they do is they arrange all the coordination. They work on their facility. They work on the rehearsal. They set up rooms for them to dress in. They have actually, it's a very beautiful club, so they do have an area where they set up outside so you can have the wedding. We have several clubs in town that actually do that because obviously Florida is a great place to hold those types of things outside. Um, so the as you look at it, this is what they kind of then they have a reception. Um, they talk about all those types of things. So they arrange for all the rentals of a dance floor. And actually, because they're an in-house caterer, they really have all of this already. They've invested in those things. So as an in-house caterer, they have their room to store it. They pull their dance floor out, put it down, all those types of things. So if your concept is more of an in-house caterer, these are also real popular as standalone facilities, mainly in the north, is where I've seen them before, where they have actual banquet halls and areas where they do these types of weddings. Um, and that's the type of thing, if that's what your concept is, then this is probably the direction you would go in with your kind of design and menus and the rest of that. You got some butler passed hors d'oeuvres, then they choose a salad, then they can choose their starch and their vegetable, entree selections. You can get a carving station if you want. You can add some extra items, niceties for there. These are upgrades, upcharges. Same with those, you get an upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. And that's what you want to do as a caterer. The more you can upgrade, the more money you make, obviously. Um, so they also offer plated dinners. Again, this is being an in-house caterer, you can do lots of things. Off-premise caterers are a little bit more, as you can see from the structure of their menus, we're more geared towards buffets, past hors d'oeuvres, those types of things, because they're much more easily handled from that type of setting and minimizing the labor. When you have to ship a plated dinner somewhere and do a plated dinner, I've done quite a few of those and they're not fun. It's not something that you would normally look at doing. So as you can see here, they go all the way through, and this is their full banquet brochure. This is their 2012 menu, but I mean, it still gives you guys a real good idea of what they do and how they do it. So this kind of gives you a little bit of, I hope that giving you this little bit of talk here gives you an idea of what direction catering is wide open. So that concept and how you design your menu is going to be really important. If you have any questions, give me a call, drop me a line, email, something along those lines, and I look forward to seeing your menus on the discussion board.